Hey guys, it is Ascension Angel here and welcome to the first video on my new channel. And today in this video, since my channel is going to be mostly orientated towards the Predator figures, I figured let's kickstart the first review off with the first Predator that actually started this whole chain of events off for the legendary Predators themselves, which is the ultimate 100th anniversary Predator figure, the Alpha Predator. Now, as you can see, I have the box right here because I want to show the box off. I do believe these boxes are part of the collectible, and the artwork on this is absolutely stunning. And this is not a Predator we've ever seen before. This is NECA's own original design. Now, this guy is so good, he actually made it into the Predator Hunting Grounds video game for the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5, I think. I don't play PlayStation, I'm an Xbox player. Either way, you can see there the sticker there, special edition 100th Predator figure, given that when this guy was made, he was the 100th figure that they've made. Got them the logo Predator right there, the Alpha, the mask, which a lot of the armor for this guy was taken from the original concept design that was going to be the Predator before it became this iconic design that we know now. And this classic design, the concept design, has been canonized, which is really cool. So we can open it, and you can see you got a nice photo there of the Alpha roaring, and you can see me. Hello, a clear window there displaying what's inside. I love the window boxes. Again, it says Predator there, and we look on the back. And I'll read this to you. The Yautja race began thousands of years ago as the Hish-Quiten, a primitive species suddenly struggling under the rule of alien invaders. For many centuries, the Amenji were cruel rulers, using the Hish for labour and breeding them to battle for the entertainment of their masters. But ultimately, the Amenji engineered their own defeat when they produced fighters strong enough to organise a rebellion, led by one particularly powerful Hish who came to be known in legend as the first hunter, the Alpha Predator, which, as you can see, is this guy. And as you can see down there, it says it includes a Menji mask, staff, sickle, bone gauntlets, bone shuriken, interchangeable hands, and more. And bonus, Alpha Predator origin story and fold-out visual guide poster, which is very, very cool. So let's get straight onto those. So first, we're going to start with the backstory, and I will read this to you as well because it is very interesting. Thousands of years ago, on a planet far from Earth, ancient Yautja ancestors known as the Hish-Quiten, the Hish, were invaded by the Amenji, a race of alien insectoids. The Amenji were a ruthless nomadic civilization who, having exhausted their own world resources in pursuit of technological ambitions, would go from planet to planet like a swarm, consuming anything they had need for and ruling what was left. In these early days, the Hish were generally smaller and more animal-like in nature than their contemporary predator descendants. Lacking the necessary strength and intelligence to withstand such an advanced foreign attack, the natives were easily overtaken and would be enslaved for many centuries. The Amenji were cruel rulers, using the primitive Hish for slave labour, food, experiments, and eventually entertainment in the form of game hunting and fighting competitions. Most notable were the fights, which would go on to become especially popular among the invaders. Some combatants even gained followings, and it wasn't long until wagers were set on the matches. Gambling was a regular obsession among the upper tier of Amenji society, and with more at stake, larger members of the Hish species were sought out, chemically enhanced and trained to become effective tools for earning their owners' profit and power. Well into the Amenji occupation, one of the largest and most fierce Hish fighters emerged. Nothing like nothing ever seen before. Once matured, he commanded respect and fear even from his own captors. Known as Kaail, I think that's how it's pronounced, a term meaning rage, this imposing young beast was not only physically impressive for his species, but was also unusually intelligent, careful to appear loyal. Rage, because I can't pronounce that, I'm just going to say Rage, secretly dedicated himself to regaining the freedom of his people and gradually allied himself with other powerful slaves throughout the established territories. Meanwhile, the Amenji rulers grew so rich and arrogant that they failed to realize the compromising position they'd created for themselves. When the time was right, Rage, aided by his chosen tribe, orchestrated a strategic and bloody insurrection. With their military soft and unchallenged for centuries, the Amenji leadership was usurped within days as they faced the fury of countless oppressed Hish generations, manifested in these brave warriors. Despite the Amenji's advanced technology and tough exoskeletons, no defense proved effective enough against the monsters they'd created. A revolution took place and the occupation was savagely dispatched. When the initial slaughter was over, Rage took one of the larger carcasses, carved off the external shell and created body armor for himself, wearing his enemy as a trophy. The others followed suit and a true hunting tribe was formed. These were the first predators. Shortly after, the remaining Amenji will be hunting down and either forced into slavery or executed. Wow, karma really did bite them on the ass. Their technology, however, would be embraced by the natives and expanded upon for generations, ultimately leading to a perfect balance between the scientific and the natural aspects of the Hish Yautja culture. Yautja history forever honours this noble tale of Rage, the first hunter, forever known as the Alpha Predator. I will admit, that is actually very, very damn cool, to be honest. And it's actually kind of similar in the backstory of how the Predators began to the Greeks, because the Greeks, which would have been, you know, they enslaved other cultures and stuff. There are a fair few ancient cultures like the ancient Egyptians that did a lot of, you know, enslaving of civilizations. So it's quite interesting how, you know, that's inspired this. And the Amenji are officially the canonized form of the classic concept design for the Predator, as it were. So the Predator was not originally going to look like the, you know, with the mandibles on the mouth. It was the weird insectoid thing, but got changed. And essentially that's now being made canon in the form of the Amenji, a completely different creature. So that's pretty cool. I do have blue tack on it because I do keep this tack to the wall, as it is very, very cool. And the next we get is the poster as well, which is a double-sided, but I only use one side. So I will show you one side of it, which, as you can see, can't get it all on here, but it is basically the cover image of the box, which is very nice and a very nicely done piece of work, I will say. And then if we do turn it around, you do see all their other figures that have been done so far. Now there is a few missing now because this figure was released quite a few years, good few years ago. If I take a look at the box, it was 2020, so 3 years ago. And since then, we now have the ultimate versions of the Lost Tribe, plus the ultimate version of Stoneheart from Predator Concrete Jungle, along with another version of the Assassin. So this is a little outdated, this side, but it's not that big of a deal, as I display it, you know, with the Assassin. So, sorry, not the Assassin, the Alpha. Very, very nice. Love the fact that this is included. I wish all the Ultimate Predators kind of had this in a way. Not necessarily the checklist, but a poster of the cover of the box. So I think that'd be very, very cool, especially as some of the, you know, well, all of the Lost Tribe members especially, but some of the Predators, Ultimate Predators, have some amazing artwork on their boxes, which is why I'm keeping the boxes. But this is a great thing. So if you can't keep the box or don't want to keep the box, which I don't know why you wouldn't, you get this to display, which is amazing. And I highly recommend anyone who has this to just get some blue tack or something and put this on their wall, because it is truly display-worthy piece in amongst itself. And here are all the accessories that we get with this guy. We get a really nice amount here, all of which are pretty much brand new except for the hands. So we get a pair of open hands, which is very nice, very good for roaring poses and whatnot. We do also get a pair of weapon holding hands, which I have modified the hinge. As you can see, this hinge is in this orientation, but following Anthony's Customs Articulation Explained wrists, it makes more sense for the wrist to bend downward when you're holding weapons. So I will show that off with Articulation, because when you're holding weapons, you want to do, you know, like swords and staffs, you go like that with it, and the same with guns as well. And then we get as well a pair of fists, which is really nice actually. We get these, to be honest, because I didn't, you know, you wouldn't expect NECA to include the fists, but it's quite nice. We also get the sickle, a nice bone sickle, and this thing is very nicely done. A lot of nice dry brushing and washes throughout. As always, NECA do know how to do a good sculpt. And the detail is very nice. The paint detail is pretty good in this one. Next we get is the bone shuriken, which is quite funny because it does look a little bit like a starfish. Obviously it's bones, but you can tell that this was what directly inspired the shuriken the AVP Predators and some of the others like the Fugitive and the Borg, the Battle Armor Borg Predator use. Borg being known as Lost because they couldn't call him Borg on the figure because of copyright reasons Star Trek. But, you know, the bladed starlight shuriken, this is essentially what inspired it, and it's very, very cool. Next we get is the staff, which I really like. The big jawbone pieces kind of wrapped together with some nice, what looks to be like leather wrappings. Beautiful, beautiful sculpt all throughout. A join in the middle, which I don't actually know how that will be holding together because that's two separate pieces of bone and should be wrapped there as well, otherwise the bones would just fall apart, but whatever. And then we get a nice spinal cord going around, which is really cool. And then if we turn it around, we get a nice hook blade on the end, which is very cool. This is a very nicely detailed piece, and this is just gorgeous. I love the jawbones on this thing. They are very, very, very cool. Next we get our two black spikes, which double as wrist blades. These can peg into the armor on the Alpha Predator, so you can just have them not being used and look like part of his arm, which they do look very cool, or you can peg them into his bone gauntlets, which we get this one here, which is for the right side. I'll show you these attached. You've got a hole there for the blades to plug into, so you can have him with some very, very stupid long blades if you want. And then you get this one, which is a double-ended bone gauntlet, because you can either have it facing this way, or you can have it facing this way for the, you know, the blades come out of. And this is, they're both very nicely done. As you can see, this one is a strange skull. I'm not really sure what animal this is. It's definitely not that. That is the Amenji. This is very, very nice. As you can see, a lot of nice weathering throughout. A bit surprised about the colour difference between the sides here. That is a bit strange. It's not the end of the world. But it's just something you want to know. Nice teeth sculpting there, which don't appear to be painted on mine, so I might have to do that myself. Not in the world. It does look very good though, very dirty, grotty, and it does look really damn good. Nice black washes and stuff. And the paint on the middle part is a little crude, but I think that's kind of good because it makes it just look more like real bone. Because bone is not exactly perfect looking, is it? And then we get this one right here. I'll show this off again, which has two nice big tusks on it, which I think might be separate pieces glued in. We get some nice little spikes here, some more teeth, and some molars here as well. You can sort of see the molars there where my finger is. They don't appear to be painted. Not a big deal. Very, very cool looking. And again, it's got that same bony, dry wash, and ugh, it does look good. And then we get the mask, which is absolutely amazing. I love this mask. Beautiful, beautiful kind of coppery, reddish coppery paint on it. Absolutely gorgeous. And the eyes are kind of an Easter egg gold as well, which is really nice, with some kind of brown eyeshadow in there. I know it looks black on camera, except now you can sort of see it's brown. But this just looks great. And again, the black with the tusks and stuff, this is just amazing. I will show how this goes on the face because it does fit on, which is amazing. However, the underside is not so amazing. This appears to be the case of all of them, not just mine. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but it is a little disappointing. It's just flat black. Not a big deal though, but I will say it is absolutely gorgeous, and on camera it's actually appearing a lot more shiny than it is in real life. It is shiny in real life, but it's not like this shiny. Don't let the camera fool you. So yeah, that is all the accessories we get. If I was to add one more thing, really, I would have liked an alternate head with open mandibles. Great for the roaring pose, kind of like what we see on the poster there. Just so that if you wanted to, you could display him screaming his head off. But still, what we get here is a very nice amount. Is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 accessories, which is amazing. You know, some some Ultimate figures and Ultimate Predators don't come with this much. So this is pretty damn good nonetheless. Now, before we take a look at the action figure itself, I will show you how the parts interchange. So the hands, it's very simple. They are on the hinge and swivel, so you get a hole in the forearm, and the wrist has the disc hinge with the straight peg. it's a very simple mechanism. You just slide the hands in like so. And then for those black bone tusks, blades, there is a big hole right there, as you can see. So this one, either one really, they're both the same. So you can put one in there. And then the other one I found, you can actually fit in this little hole right here, which is where the shuriken can also be stored. So you can put them both in there. And as you can see, even though they look a bit uneven, let me just try and readjust that. You can now see that he has those in. And there is more weapon storage as well. So you can take the sickle and you can feed it either way, but I find it a little bit easier to do it this way. So you can feed it through here, which is very nice that he has this actually. And it's a very soft vinyl as well. So you won't have to worry about it, you know, being too stiff and whatnot. And it holds very well. And then the bone gauntlets, so for the left one, you do have to remove the wrist, and it can go on either way. So you just fit it on there. It doesn't stay on too great, so you do have to, you know, hold it whilst you put the wrist in. And then once you get it in, it's fine, it's good to go. And the other one's a little bit different. This piece is actually on a slider, which is quite interesting as well. Now, as you can see, there's two ball pegs here. And then inside the jaw piece, there are two sockets. Just be a little careful, you know, put it on top rather than at the side. And then just squeeze and you'll get them in like that. So before I put the mask on, I do want to show off the sculpt of the head, because this is, from what I believe, 100% new to this figure. I don't think we've ever had a sculpt like this. The dreads are definitely new. This looks familiar, this head, in general structure and shape to the emissary predators that were cut from the Predator, the one that Shane Black directed, because this figure basically uses the fugitive Predator body mold, more or less, with some added parts, which is fine. But the head, it kind of looks like the emissaries that were released. But I don't think it's the same sculpt. It might be, it might not. I don't have those, so I can't compare. But either way, regardless, it is absolutely amazing. The mandibles, I can definitely tell you, are 100% brand new. This has some, the paint on this is amazing. The eyes are red as well, which kind of gives me the impression that he's an albino, or albino if you're American and Canadian. But it's really, really nicely done. Dark, bony coloured mandibles. The mouth in there is all painted. You can kind of see just a pearlescent white, some little yellow, orangish yellow spots there. Again, just beautifully well done. This has to be one of the best painted ones I've ever seen, to be honest. You can see the dreadlocks as well have a nice marbling effect. Even though some of it is paint of, again, that pink, that pearlescent pink, along with some pearlescent kind of magenta, and then pearlescent blue as well, which is amazing. You get a nice top knot right here as well, the bunch of them braided together, and you get a bunch of them going into this exoskeleton part, which can a little bit hinder movement. It's not too bad, but, you know, it's just worth noting. But the head just looks absolutely amazing. And again, I just want to show off that face, because it is a fantastic sculpt. And then the mask, I did find the first few times putting this on, it was an absolute pain in the bum. It really was, because you can't quite see so easily. And these top mandibles are supposed to fit into those little notches right there. And it is a little tricky. I will do it on camera, and it's probably going to play up. But I did find that after doing it several times, it does go on, and it does snap on fairly easy. I did have to boil it, I think, actually, to soften it, to actually get it to, you know, to go on properly. And now that it's gone on, it fits on really nicely, and that just looks absolutely amazing. This guy already looks formidable enough as it is. I really don't want to think what would happen if he had cloaking tech. He'd be even worse. He really would just be a monster. You get a close look at some of the armour on this guy. You can definitely see there is a lot of nice details. Not just sculpted, but painted as well. The metallic reddish copper colour is dry brushed all throughout the armour. Got some nice wrappings here, a little bit of a shoulder piece there. And it really, really does look good. There's some wrappings in here as well, which is very nice. As you can see, the arms do look really, really nicely done. The other arm, the bicep, is more or less the same, but different sculpt. And of course, the gauntlet is very different, as it has the slider there, which is pretty cool, actually, that it has that. Wouldn't expect that, in all honesty, but it is pretty nice. And the back, we'll just take a look at this again. The golden yellow, which kind of looks like an eye, based on what the mask, you know. But it ain't, I don't think. Just more exoskeleton pieces throughout. And what's really cool is, not them falling out, is that this whole chest piece is a very soft vinyl, this too. So it really, and it's segmented here as well, and here, as you can see. The camera's not, yeah, I'll show you. So you can see it's segmented here and here in the middle. So it's only really attached at the back, which is great because it doesn't actually hinder articulation that much. And if I show you the basic, you know, the abdominal section underneath, you can see that it is the Lab Escape Fugitive Predator, which is basically the unarmored body. The legs are fresh new sculpt because originally they just had netting on them, but here they've just been retooled to not have netting, and they've just added some extra armor pieces and the knees as well. Got the nice boots here. Mine is missing, I think, a little bit of paint there. It's not the end of the world. The feet, again, you can definitely tell these are fugitive, but with the added armor parts, which look great. And then the loincloth is really cool. This is very cool. It's like a pelt, as you can see. And it has like a kind of spinal belt going around, and it's segmented a bit at the back. I did have to disassemble this guy, actually, because the hips were very, very loose. The hips were very loose, so I did have to disassemble it to tighten it, so that's how I know how this all works. And it is very cool. You even get some details there underneath, like this part, which is not painted, which doesn't really matter too much. And it just looks absolutely incredible. You get some more armor parts right here, some spikes on the feet, and of course you do get the peg holes, which is actually interesting because they don't have the copyright on the bottom of the feet this time, as you can see, and that's quite interesting to note. Okay, so for articulation, this is one of the best ones in terms of range. The head was a little bit but that's just because of all the bulk. I did have to modify the neck slightly just to make it look up a bit more, otherwise you wouldn't really be getting anything. So it would have originally only gone up about that far. With a bit of modifying, I was able to get it to go a little bit more up. But it can look down fairly nicely. You can lean the head side to side. And of course you can get into the left and right. It is going to be a bit hindered though, because you have got all these dreadlocks in here, so it is going to hinder the rotation. Just need you guys to be aware of that. The shoulders are on a pin socket joint, so they will rotate all the way around. And this piece is nice and soft. It will get in the way, and these shoulders are still really tight, so it is getting in the way there, but you can get it to do a full 360. You do have a disc hinge in the shoulder as well, which does enable out to side movement, which is pretty nice. You can get both these shoulders going horizontal. This one's a little bit tighter, actually. The elbow is on a double joint, and it's the similar ones to the Xenomorph design, which for a guy with muscles, I don't really like. I do prefer the traditional bicep swivel, but I don't mind this as functionally. I just, you know, you do get a pin and socket joint at either end and a disc hinge. So you use the lower joint if you want to get like, because that's a standard elbow, and then this one is actually in the bicep. And it does look fairly seamless, actually. It does look really good. So you do get that, and of course, because it swivels at either end, you do get your elbow, you know, rotation there. And if you want to pop the hand off, you can, you know, rotate your gauntlet there as well. So, you know, if you want him doing that with his wrist blades, you can rotate the gauntlet, which is pretty cool. Now the wrists, I will plug on a fist for this side. Just this forearm's a little bit loose here. So the wrists, the fists, and all the hands originally would have done this, you know, this standard motion. So it's a disc hinge with a rotation. However, I modified the gripping hands here, and I'll show you with the sickle why. If I put the sickle in his hand, I actually modified the gripping hands, because if they were to do this motion, it makes no sense when you're holding a weapon. However, when you're holding a staff, I modified them to do that. So if he's holding like a sword per se or something, he can point the sickle forward. and it makes more sense for slashing poses where you flick your wrist down like that. So this is just a mod I've done. If you do buy the figure yourself, the wrist will have this articulation. This is just something I've done. As you can see, it makes more sense to point blades forward. Now the diaphragm and the waist are on 2 joints. So the waist is on a single ball peg and the diaphragm is on a double ball peg. So combining those together, you do get an astonishing, absolutely astonishing amount of crunch. I know it doesn't look like that much, but believe me, for a NECA Predator, that is quite a bit. That is quite a bit of crunch. And even then, this is me actually like, you know, forcing it a little more than it should do. So you can crunch him forward that much. You can also arch him back. Not quite as much, I will say. Not quite as much, just because of the bulkiness back here. And this is why I'm really glad that this middle piece, as you can see, is separate. Because it then goes under or above, and it really doesn't hinder the articulation. You can also lean side to side a tremendous amount. This is, besides the Assassin Predator body type, this has to be one of their best diaphragm and waist joints. Really good movement. And you can rotate at the waist, and you can also rotate at the diaphragm as well, given that the ball joints are round. Now, the hips are not on the interconnecting pin and sockets. They're on the older type of mechanism for some befuddling reason. And when I got mine out of the box, I could just do that and they would flop. I've gone in there, disassembled the lower section, tightened it all up, and the hips are now nice and tight. So they kick forward that far, which is pretty good. They kick back that far. There's a disc hinge in there, so you can get him to do more or less the splits if you want that. There is also a pin and socket in the thigh as well, so you do get a nice thigh swivel. The double jointed knee, which has the traditional hinge at the bottom, and then the pin and socket with a disc hinge at the top, which they've done that so that, as you can see, when you bend it, it does look very, very seamless. I've actually glued up the peg in here because I don't like the knee rotation, and it doesn't make much sense. You don't need it when you've got the thigh swivel. So you can bend the knee if you want to use that for 90, and then if you use the lower joint in the shin, which is quite loose until I tightened it up by bending the plastic narrower. As you can see, you bend that, and yeah, it does look a little ugly there, but you do get your double joint, and it works quite nicely. And the feet, now this is quite interesting. The feet usually on NECA Predators are single ball pegs, with the exception of Stoneheart and the Assassin Predator. But here, they are, and even though this shares a fugitive body mold, they should be on the same, but they're actually on double ball pegs. And I did have to tighten these up as well, but you get an exceptional amount of pivot out of them. And it didn't look like that at first, you know, that may not look like much, but then when you do that, you do get quite a wide stance out of him. So that is overall really, really, really good articulation overall for this guy. And I'm very, very impressed. And overall, the Alpha Predator is one of, if not the best Ultimate figures that NECA have ever done. And considering this is NECA's own design, not taken from anything else, it is absolutely incredible just how well they've done with this. The sculpted detail is incredible on all the new parts that are unique to this figure. The amount of unique parts as well is amazing. The articulation is quite good, even though the legs are a bit loose on the hips. The paint on this is probably some of the best I've ever seen. There is no slop, there is no missed bits anywhere at all. And it is just absolutely incredible that this is officially canon as well. It's been embraced by the community, and I love just how unique this guy is, how the fact that he's all bony in his armor, and it's just absolutely incredible. If you can get him, I do recommend him. He is highly, highly worth it. So I do hope you enjoyed this video, guys. If you did, then please be sure to click the like button. If you are new to the channel, then please be sure to click the subscription button and also turn on notifications. It does help out a lot. Feel free to post a comment if you so wish. My Instagram and TikTok links are in the description below, and I will post a Wikipedia page as well for this guy down below if you want to read that. So be sure to check that out, and until then, I hope to see you all in the next video.